Hi everybody, it's Dalen from the Somebody Son podcast, and I want to send a special thank you to Mr. Andre for the kind review on Apple Podcasts. Keep subscribing, keep leaving reviews, and we'll be sure to send you a thank you in the episodes ahead. When it comes to sponsors, we only partner with the independently owned companies who actually do good in the community. That's why we love God Got Us. So be smart and go to ggu.store and use the promo code in the show notes. On this episode, the guys tackle the importance of self-care. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why should men care about self-care? Look, my dad tells me all the time that if I take care of me, I'll be better positioned to take care of others. Give us the 5 stars and sit back and enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of the Somebody Son podcast, where biting your tongue is never allowed. Young men battle with the pressures of manhood every day. Each episode, we tackle topics that focus on worth, actions, and relationships. Our goal is simple: help men win the war with themselves.
We were about to dig into a really good topic, or at least I wanted us to pivot, because you talked about essentially like you have these certain guardrails or parameters in the workplace. Is that a safe assumption?
Safe.
So,
yeah.
And you feel like based on the fact that they're your colleagues, not only are you not looking to share certain information, but it's not even, you don't expect it of others either.
Agreed.
Do you think the fact, well, let me ask this question. I don't want to make the assumption. Is your workplace predominantly Caucasian?
What workplace isn't?
Okay. Well,
Well, there's several.
There are several, but okay.
Corporate. He means the corporate.
Well, I mean, you think of Bevel. Tristan Walker was very intentional in hiring all minorities, and what he was doing in Silicon Valley is like unparalleled.
Absolutely, but it's also anomalous.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's anomalous. Yeah. So I would agree with that. So your workplace is predominantly Caucasian. Do you think the fact that your workplace is predominantly Caucasian, that you have a governor on, or that influences the guardrails or the parameters you put in place? Said differently, if you worked with all African Americans or all Indians or all Hispanics or all Mexicans, do you think you would have the same workplace parameters 100% of the time?
Would you
the
be
exact
more
same
inclined
way?
if they were minorities to,
Depends.
Okay. On.
Depends. First thing I look at is quality of work.
Okay.
Quality of work.
What's your work product?
Yeah, because I'm still here for a job, people. At the end of the day, white, black, and different, if I can't depend on you for your output, I don't have anything to say to you anyway.
I agree.
Okay.
Right?
Facts.
Now,
same thing.
Now,
unless required.
Yes. Now, what was the original question?
You said you had certain guardrails, parameters in place where you don't, essentially, you don't show all of yourself at work.
Yes, because for me,
and so I'm asking, do you think your race in that environment influences how much you show?
No. I think it's more so of who I am as an individual and just how I move throughout life as a whole. The people who know me the most are the people who are closest to me. Very rarely will you be able to know the intimate details of Chris Russell if we don't have a certain relationship up front anyway. And that has to come with either time, trauma, some kind of experience that had to get us to that point. Right? Now, with people at work, is it I'm one of the few? Yes. Do I mind it? No, it really doesn't bother me because I'm here to do a job and my output speaks for itself. So the reason, the comment I made about me having a close relationship with my boss and my peers is because I can go into a room with my boss and be honest with you. Hey, I don't like this. I don't agree with this. I think you should do this, that, and the third. It's more of I can be honest. I built up, my output has put me in a position where I have more autonomy than most. So I have more travel opportunities than most. I'm okay with butting heads and let them know, hey, I'm not agreeing to this and we can do that.
Are you personally, from a relationship standpoint, closer to your boss or your coworkers?
I don't talk to any of them outside of work.
Okay.
I'm just when I'm at work.
The question wasn't, are you closer outside of work? The question was, are you closer to your boss or your colleagues? You got to be closer to one.
I think he just told us.
I'm close to my boss.
Okay.
Close to my boss.
Yeah, closer to your
I have more open and transparent conversations with my boss about things that are happening at work than outside. But me and my boss don't talk politics. We don't talk.
No, that's
whatever.
Fair.
We don't talk.
Is your work of a collaborative nature? Like,
yes.
do you ever? So there is a requirement that you work well with the people around you.
My whole job, I manage cross department teams. Every project I work on is what I do.
And you said your colleagues love you.
Yes.
Or they at least think fondly of you.
We had an individual who's leaving, And I was saying, hey, you know, sad to see you go via email. He said, Chris, it was a pleasure working with you. You're one of the most solution-oriented people I've worked with. And it was a pleasure to be a part of the project you worked on because I can see your drive.
That's awesome.
That has nothing to do with anything outside of output.
Sure.
Now,
I agree with that.
Now, when people have conversations, sometimes I sit in meetings over and people talk about whatever they want to talk about. I grab my things and I leave. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes I may hear a laugh. Right. I may do a laugh if I'm around, if I haven't packed up my laptop fast enough. But outside of that, I'm not saying I'm super cold and don't speak to anyone. I'm just saying that I'm here to do a job, and I'd rather my output speak for itself than anything else.
So you want your performance to speak louder than your socialization.
My bad, G. I want these white boys to know I'm on their ass. Mm-hmm. That's what I want you to know.
Okay, so all right. Let me ask this question. Let me ask this question. So you see.
I know you want to go. No, I'm taking you there.
What it seems like is what you're saying is you see everybody else as competition.
I'm on your ass.
And the reason that you're not close with them is because they're essentially on your kill list. You trying to.
It's not. I don't want a promotion. I could have took the project work I did last year. I got $1 million in revenue projected from this project I worked on single-handedly. Mm-hmm. I could have leaned on that and asked for a raise. I didn't want a raise. I want to go home. Mm-hmm. I'm not. It's not competition. I appreciate my role, and because I don't see a whole lot of us in these roles, and the few that I see do, we move a little different. I want to make sure I set the example for myself and people that come behind me. That's why I move the way I move.
So I think that's two different things. I think what you just said is you take a personal responsibility that because there's not a lot of folks that look like you in the environment, that your output will speak louder than anything else in the office.
That's all it needs.
Not socialization, not building social capital. It will be based on my performance. And if you look at my performance, my work speaks for itself. And the fact that it's not that many of you in your workplace, you pride yourself on it so they know I too can be a top performer. I too have high potential.
And a lot of my performance is based on relationships.
Yep.
A lot of my performance is based on when they do our talent reviews, they literally go to your stakeholders and other departments you're working in and say, hey, tell me about
like a 360,
this project. It's a 360.
Yeah, what I wanted to dig into, and then I'll give it to you, Chris. What I wanted to dig into was Amanda Seales just did a stand-up on HBO. It's hilarious. I wasn't that familiar with her, but I thought it was a very interesting take. But essentially what she says is there's a version of us at work. And so when people say they like you at work, they like a certain version. Mm-hmm. Do you think that version of you would change based on the environment? Because, and I'm gonna give you this illustration. Let me finish.
Go ahead.
When I see us going to, I moved around a lot as a military brat. If I went into an ethnic barbershop, the experience for the most part was the same. Mm-hmm. Now, you had some guys in there that can cut, some that didn't, but the general conversation, the camaraderie, the general environment was the same. So I would bank that if I had $100, I'd bet $100 every time that the same version of me showed up in that barbershop. Mm-hmm. Now, because I was a military brat, sometimes we did not have ethnic barbershops. And that environment is very different.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I can guarantee probably 100 times out of 100 that version of me was very different, despite it still being a barbershop, despite the purpose of it still being where I need to get my hair cut.
Sure.
The environment dictated the version of me that you received. Mm-hmm. And it didn't make you wishy-washy. Some people call it code switching. Some people say that's how you're able to navigate successfully in the workplace. Do you think that version of you would change based on the environment that you're in?
Yes, because that is a statement that's applied across the board. It can apply to workplace, barbershop, whatever. The reason being is when I am in unfamiliar situations, I'll give you a prime example. When I go to a bar that is mixed or, predominantly not my color, I still don't want to be there alone, but there's a different, I feel like I'm just in there. I'm just there. Mm-hmm. I'm just there for what it is. I'm a patron at this bar and that's it.
Yeah.
When I go to places, for example, that's a club where a lot of people in my age group or younger congregate, there's less of a sense of comfort I have in that environment because even though I'm in a room of people that look like me, I feel more judgment. I feel the weight of the room a little bit more being in a place that's all people look like me as compared to being somewhere that all look like G, right? It's just in those situations, I am just that.
Interesting. Are you saying you're more comfortable at the mixed bars than you are at
Yes, I am.
Interesting. I mean, I think that in itself is a conversation, but I don't want to detract from the workplace.
Yeah, so take back the workplace. It depends on. I've never worked in an environment where it was predominantly African Americans that were not on the lowest tier of the workforce. Very rarely. I went to a vendor visit last week, and I'm sitting around a table with a bunch of white men. But when I go to the floor and see the people that's back there producing the product that I need, they all look like us. Right? I don't feel uncomfortable around those guys. I don't feel comfortable around the white dudes either. I didn't put on any type of airs to be in a situation. I'm just saying for my current job level, it's hard for me to imagine being in an environment, in a corporate situation where it's a whole bunch of us.
Because we haven't seen tangible examples.
We haven't seen tangible examples.
Anomalies, right?
Yeah.
So Jinx in State of the Culture had an amazing thing. He said African Americans.
Shout out to Jinx.
Shout out to Jinx.
Jinx, yeah.
He had an interesting take. He said African Americans come out. We're developed to be bilingual.
Sure.
What you're doing in the workplace is another language. And the reason it resonated with me is I don't know if your majority counterparts could speak the same language if placed in a different environment.
I know they can, and that's why I appreciate being in an environment because it shows me how further along I am on the social spectrum, regardless if I want to be there or not. Yeah. I can relate to pretty much any type of person. I've been in 30 countries. I've talked to people that can barely speak English. I can relate to a lot of different people, but there's a certain level of personal choice that dictates for myself how far I'm taking a relationship or any type of social interaction. I don't think being a different version of yourself is very strong, and it can be seen as a negative. I think we flex certain things. Yep. You are who you are all the time. If there's a person, we're going to keep it at work. There's a person that's probably, I don't want to say messy at home, but if their personal life isn't intact, it probably spills over to the workplace. I was doing some research on a few art galleries in my hometown, and I'm noticing grammatical errors in the website. I would, for me, that was like, that's something that should have been
varying standards of excellence.
Yeah.
Based on, yeah.
So my whole thing is, in the workplace, my output speaks for itself. I don't have to have, and because my output is heavily relied on relationships and me being able to reprioritize other people's objectives to get mine done, because normally if I'm on a project, it's a now project. So if you see me coming to you, I need you now. Very rarely do I wait. Yeah. Right? So it's my position puts me in a situation where I have to cultivate, maintain trusting relationships with people
to be successful.
For me to be successful, not for everyone. For me to be successful. But the thing is, the reason why I keep it at a certain level is because I don't want to commit the time to nurturing relationships outside of people.
Sure, and it can be exhausting, and it can be. Trust me. All right. So. Boom, you got work relationships, personal relationships. If you choose to, you can turn a work relationship or enhance a work relationship into the personal space. Right? Cool.
Which is a flex.
I just don't do that.
Yeah.
I prefer not to.
Cool.
But I think that also directly has aided into your success, because I forgot the doctor, and we can look it up later, but there's this guy, he talks about promotion is really based off of three things, or even the way you're viewed in the workplace is based off of performance, image, and exposure. Your performance or output is only a third. And he would tell you that's not even the most important third. There's plenty of executives out here who can't perform. It's the image and exposure.
Sure.
You've been able to maintain a certain image of yourself. They've continued to give you exposure to high level visibility projects. Right. And because that has come with the cost of only limiting the version of you, or limiting the access, or limiting the enhanced relationship, you continue to be successful because you put that guardrail in place.
Yeah. While I do completely subscribe to and believe what you just said, performance, exposure,
image and exposure, it's called PI.
Those are extremely important, right, and relevant. I think it also matters what your corporation, your business values. And so what's slightly different about the space that I work in and maybe some others is there is a whole aspect of what we might call like googliness. So your ability to work with folks, people got to like you to work on things that are beyond the scope of their day-to-day duties. And you're not getting promoted if you're not doing anything beyond the scope of your duties. And so again, it's what your company values that can influence and impact your ability
Ascension.
to matriculate us.
Yep. Trajectory.
And it's also what you care about. And I will just say this, because I went from a big four management consulting firm where image was everything. And a lot of my relationships certainly started off with, I want you to know I'm not here because I was an affirmative action pick. I'm here because of my excellent work product across the board. Because of that, I created this personal self and this image that I maintain dutifully. You know what I'm saying? And it rewarded me. But I began to be able to develop relationships and learn that there were some safe spaces and pockets. But I ultimately maintained this image, right? And only was close and cool with folks who look like me. When I got to where I'm at now, I began to slowly kind of shed this kind of act. But I've been able to bring more and more of myself to work, which has been rewarding in a lot of ways. It's less stressful, less anxious, and it's just less work because it's less of an act. And I've seen how people have responded to it. So much so that I'll use certain colloquial terms that I would have used back in slang, in work. Obviously not in y'all know me, so not in a meeting or anything, but
sure.
In passing. And I'm looking at the fact that some of my colleagues are picking it up, and I'm realizing that our culture is pop culture. Yeah. They are all doing it, seeing it, saying it outside of work anyway. A lot of them are, and so aside from that, people appreciate you being your authentic self as much as you can get to that point that is within reason for you, within your boundaries, and within your values and goals. I think you should achieve that and be at peace with that.
I don't disagree.
And that's why your way works well and my way works well.
And I agree with you 100%. And I'm not saying me putting a guardrail on what I decided to share with people makes me not be who my full self. I am who I am. Yeah. All I'm saying is I purposely don't go carry on certain conversations because I don't want to be involved with.
Bro, you don't take it to the personal.
I don't take it to the personal level. Now we can talk about sports. We can talk about whatever. I'm not saying if you're not here for a reason, I don't have a conversation with you. All I'm saying is I'm here. I'm here because first off, I appreciate being here because my job now has really shaped my personal life, my perspective on the entire world. Like I see life different. I can see how I am different as an individual because of the things my job has let me experience. I have tangible examples of points throughout my career in this role that I can see where I've made different choices in my personal life because of how I move at work. And for example, real estate topic. Having to pitch my idea to a bank who's going, if he don't agree with my business idea, he don't agree with my monthly revenue projections, he doesn't agree with my marketing plans, I don't get the money.
Facts.
I have to, at work, to sell as human, the book that we read. You're always in sales. You're always in sales. If you have an idea, if you have a project you want to work on, something you think is important, you have to sell an idea to a stakeholder that's going to be willing to invest in it. Even in your personal life. Even what we're doing right now. You always have to sell. And I don't think that putting yourself in a position that you focus on the output from what you sold is a bad thing. Because I decide not to share my political affiliation. There are
plenty of people who've become extremely successful in this world, billionaires who've operated just like you. I actually just literally found out from one of my close friends who knows a director on a very personal level. Being a director at Google is like basically being a CEO at another company. This individual does not share personal things. You're not going to walk into this individual's workspace and see pictures of the family. You're not going to get into conversation. At the highest level, our leader is not operating at that level either. You know what I mean? And so has it made them less successful, less effective? No. I love them both. You know what I'm saying? Well, I don't love them, but like I appreciate them both.
You have appreciation for both of their styles. And I think what feeds whatever style you flex in the workplace is based on your level of success. If you have been successful moving the way you would move, you're more inclined to continue to do that.
Rewarded.
Because you've been rewarded. I've done the same way. If you walk into my office, there's no pictures of my family. No pictures of my family.
We have shared
desks. The whiteboard.
If I could put pictures of my family up, I would. I would love to have it, but we have a shared desk. So you have to clean up everything.
But what if I want to ask you about it?
But here's the thing.
You don't need to know their names.
I'll tell you if you want to ask. There's not a person that works with me that does not know I have a woman, where her career is, where I'm from, what high school I went to. We've had these conversations. I talk. It's just that certain things I don't feel like I need to share. I agree. Prime example. I had associate of mine. He reported to me a year and a half ago. and he was at work doing nothing, essentially looking up high school rankings. So his high school was currently at the time ranked number 2 in the country. So he's like, oh man, my high school went up to number 2. I said, oh, that's great. And we're like, it's an open office, so everyone can hear you around you. And I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. I said, I'm pretty sure my high school isn't ranked. Just throwing jokes because I'm, focused on other tasks. He was like, Theo, where'd you go? Thomas Jefferson High School, Richmond, Virginia. He looked it up. He said, you're not on the list. Kind of like snarkily, like, man, your high school isn't even ranked. And I was like, yeah, but you work for me. And at the time, the only other person of color we had on the team was a cross. She looked from behind her desk and was like, yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Chris. I'm surprised you said it. What do you mean? I'm responsible for your promotion. I'm responsible for how you grow in this company. And actually, I'm about to pip you anyway. You about to get up out of here because this is how you spend your time. So
look at that high school.
So for me, it's I'm able. I cut my shit when I need to. I just prefer that if I'm not gonna say walk in the room. Hey guys, I went to a high school that's barely accredited. I'm not gonna walk in the room and say that.
Sure.
Hey guys, I'm this. Why do I have to give you anything more than what you see anyway? Because you already got preconceived notions regardless until I open my mouth.
Yeah.
So let me ask this.
One reason why I didn't join the Greek fraternity, but that's a separate topic.
So what in your work life relationship with your colleagues, what is taking it too far in terms of what topics are you not willing to share?
I don't talk religion. I don't talk politics. And I don't
these
talk,
are like the age old.
Yeah, like same. You probably should.
If it's Title VII, I don't talk about it. I don't talk Title VII at work. I have no interest in talking Title VII at work because in my position, my foundation I feel is a little more fragile than others. And I'll give you a prime example. I was working on an assignment at a remote, a satellite location that we have. And there was a person of another gender that was making comments towards me in a joking, lighthearted manner. But I talked to my woman about it and she's pissed. And she's like, I don't agree with that. That's not fair. And I said, well, I can't say anything because if I do, because of society as a whole, I don't want to put my employment at risk for blowing the whistle on her because if she turned on me, who do you think they're going to believe?
I've actually heard of a situation where this happened.
Yeah. Who do you think they're going to believe?
Close for,
So
not heard of, but I know of a situation.
And so I just dealt with it and it wasn't nothing crazy. It wasn't like I was uncomfortable. I was laughing you off. I'm like, if I were to do what you did half the time, I'd be out of here.
But see, this is you arrived to the same destination using a very different example, but this is what I was talking about. There's greater barriers in the environments that we're working in because they're not culturally inclusive as much as they could be.
Agreed.
And when you flip that dynamic for some of our peers, they don't even know those barriers exist. And so like for me, everybody knows what my wife and my son look like, but it's because I make sure in my one-on-one conversations, I ask them, hey, tell me, I want to know a little bit more about you beyond this. Before we like get into our one-on-ones, how'd your weekend go? Where do you pour your time? What foundations do you
These
pour your
are pleasantries that everyone share every day. I do the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. But all I'm saying is the barriers that we have in the workplace, and this is really where I wanted the conversation to go. We have to overcome more barriers. And subsequently, that may mean you may not get our most authentic version.
Yeah.
Because
you
of
gotta
the
be
barriers.
more mindful of you feel less secure in your role. But so you watch and you're sure to articulate in a way that is
sometimes it's not that complicated.
Yeah, but a lot of times it is.
A lot of times it is. It may not be.
Of course it's not that complicated all the time.
But I'll give you an example. So my former company is based in Atlanta. I wasn't living in Atlanta. But when I would go there during this particular time of year, and I went there every time during this particular time of year, a number of us all had on the color green. And I had a colleague that didn't work in my department, but looked like us. They weren't African American. I think they might have been like Middle Eastern.
Was it not
He
St.
put me to the
Patrick's Day?
side and he said, hey, it wasn't St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
He said, hey, why does everybody wear green? I was like, oh, it's the Week of the Masters. Everybody knows it's the Week of the Masters. We bring all of our top clients here for the Week of the Masters. It's the Week of the Masters. It's like second nature. It's like Christmas and the Week of the Masters. How do you not know about the Week of the Masters? But culturally, he had not been exposed to that. So he thought he was being excluded on his team because everybody wore green, and he didn't. He was like, hold on, was this a text message? And it would happen every year during the week of the Masters. Green comes out. Subsequently, he changed, right? He started the week of the Masters. He went and bought, you can order Masters gear online, has a little yellow flag or red flag, right? Yeah. Now, subsequently, what ended up happening? He ended up getting promoted. To this day, he says, that's completely unfair. My output in work never changed. But because I wore green, now I have a greater connectivity with those folks that influenced my trajectory. I never changed who I was. I never changed.
But I agree with you. Me personally, I wouldn't have bought a Masters polo or whatever it was because I don't watch golf and I act like I watch it, so I don't care, right? But secondly, it's all about what your plan is in your workplace. If you want to get promoted, then you might got to do a little more song and dance to others. Me, I don't want to get promoted. I have no interest. I have no interest.
There was a time you did though.
And what we talked about there earlier, I got to a place now where I don't care about promotion. I don't care about title. 3-4 years ago, Chris wanted to be COO, wanted to be director, wanted to be VP, wanted to make 6 figures by a certain age. Now I've hit some of those targets and I don't really care as much. I don't want the stress. I don't want the headache. I want my time back. I don't invest so much time in cultivating the best corporate relationships because the relationships I have are solid. I'm able to go to my boss and say, hey, I'm leaving you 8 months. He could have said, you're fired now. You only got to wait that long.
And I think what you're saying really ties into a topic that comes up in our themes on and off camera, which is you got your expected outcome, so you create a diet accordingly. And for you, going to work happy hours, socials, and having deep conversations on a personal level just ain't it in diet.
It's going to take away the time I have for me to do things I want to do so I can stop having to deal with corporate America in general.
I respect
That's what's important to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that.
And your goals have changed though. And I think that's what's most important. Your goals have changed. And so now you, to your point around diet, you've shifted the way that you move daily as a result of that. Because to your point, 3-4 years ago, you might have bought that polo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Maybe. But check this out.
It wasn't solid. No, man.
I'm not saying that. I want it to be very, very clear is I'm not going to happy hours anyway. So it's not like I'm only choosing going to happy hours with people who look like me or my friends after work 3 times a week. I'm not going to
replace happy hour with any other social
I'm going home.
Regardless if it's your coworker.
My time, my MacBook is more valuable than me going to a bar. The reason why I don't see a lot of people, you didn't know I lived here until today. You thought I moved, right? Nothing against our relationship. It's just life happens. People are busy.
Reality.
It's
Absolutely.
reality of it. And how I choose to invest my time is my choice. And if I don't have an obligation to go to happy hour, I'm not going. One of my coworkers, very, very good guy, very nice guy, very intelligent. We talk offline about real estate. He's interested in real estate. So we have conversations about things. He had a going away happy hour. He's going to our North Carolina location. I went there. I had a half a beer. I said my goodbye, shook his hand, and I went home. I was there for 45 minutes. I did that because of the situation. Outside of that, if it was just a random whatever, Taco Tuesday, I wouldn't have went.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all on the same page. I think you pick the game you want to play, you play it. It's sad in some ways we have to play by different rules. And I think that's what you were ultimately getting at.
Oh, yeah.
But we can go in there too. We can go there too because I see a lot of people, I see a lot of majorities taking their job for granted. We had talent reviews yesterday. We review the whole department. We kind of stack them against themselves. And some people, performance is very, very poor. Or we blur the line between performance and development or image and performance. I'm at the table saying, hey, guys, knowledge, strong guy, but comes to work late all the time. Slumps down in the chair, right? Do all these things, give out these nonverbal cues to show he's not really engaged, and it's impacting his performance. It's not affecting his performance, it's his image. It's affecting his image, and you guys are blending performance and image. And I want to make sure that if we're going to judge everyone accordingly, we have to make sure we calibrate the right way, because you can't tell me the guy who goes 100 miles an hour and is very, very active and engaging and talks a lot, but you say he makes a lot of mistakes in his work. He's not very analytical. We can't grade him higher than the guy who does a good job and just slouch down in his chair. Right? So what are we talking about here? Are we talking about performance? Or are we talking about image? Let's have the right conversation. Right? But I see it where people take it for granted. I'm not going to take it for granted. I'd rather have my output very, very high. I want to make sure my work relationships are maintained to a point where it allows me to keep the goals that I have for myself intact, keep the financial stability I need intact right now until I'm able to move on to other things, other aspirations. And that's how I move. I choose not to let it falter.
Yeah.
Because it's very difficult for me to be here. You know how I know it's very difficult to be here? Because I would have saw more of me if it wasn't. Mm-hmm. If it was easy, I probably would have saw more of me. Mm-hmm. I'm the only guy in my department. It's not just a color thing. I'm the only person in my department that doesn't have a supply chain, logistics, or business background. I'm a psych major with an HR master's. Mm-hmm. And I'm a special projects manager for logistics. I'm the only one that doesn't have any kind of educational background. So when everyone works on these Excels and did this stuff in class, I didn't do that anymore.
In the next episode, what are you doing to get more of you in there? Tune in to
I'll tell you what I'm doing. Getting out and doing my own so I can hire my own people.
And that's certainly a strategy.
That's definitely
a strategy. Hey, this one was good, man.
Yeah, this was good.
You learned a lot?
I'm listening, man. I'm taking it in.
Yeah. Hey, man, it's a lot to consider, isn't it?
I work. It's funny because for me, I've just been working really on my solo since 15. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like,
keep it that way, man. No, I'm not gonna say that.
No, it's not like I've worked collaboratively with people. You know what I mean? But not to the extent of a corporate, office or anything like that, where politics and relationships are essentially.
I can see the difference between entrepreneurs that are career entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs who started out in corporate America first. Mm. There are certain nuances that you can kind of see when you look at those two particular subgroups of people. Mm.
All right, let's dig into that on the next one.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Somebody's Son podcast. We encourage you to share this episode with a friend. And remember, on this path called life, you are not alone. Thank you for watching. Until next time.
She liked the way that I finessed it. She stared so long, she let me